a good time. Put a smile on your face, yeah. KB Cam and Elation Radio. Even brighten your day and help you through the night. Bringing you good music. KB Cam and Elation Radio. And here's your host, KB Cam.
Well, here we are again for another podcast. I want to thank you, to our listeners, for tuning in to the Jadasa Live podcast. I am Cynthia Bennett, your host. And as always, we always want to take the time to thank those that help us get to where we are, and that will be our owner of Elations Radio, Miss Kimmy Kim. I want to thank her. Here on the Jadasa Live podcast, as you know, every week we talk about issues, stories, resources, events, and ways to eradicate abuse for all kinds in the community, and that's done through education, edification, and encouragement. Tonight, I want to talk about some laws that creates a challenge for those of us who are working in this field that's dealing with domestic violence, our clients, the organizations, the movement. some of these laws are presenting a challenge, and we want to talk about that. But before we get started, I want to talk to you about our upcoming event. It is a community drive on July the 24th, which is next Saturday, and it is called the Dignity Drive. And this is a community-wide initiative where you can participate in changing the narrative for somebody. And so we are asking for donations in toiletries. It could be deodorant. It can be diapers, shower gel, shower shoes, socks, combs, things that we, don't take too much time to think about. But when those people who are out there in need, they're homeless and they're in need and they're in situations where they have escaped their environment. They escaped, they left their home. Sometimes they have to leave with just the clothes on their backs, and they don't have these necessary items. And so one of the things I want us to know that even though they may have the clothes on their backs and stuff, just the things they're going through, the traumatic experiences they have to endure, one thing we don't want to have to deal with is them going into an establishment to get help, to get services, and they may not feel fresh, or they may not smell fresh, or they may not look fresh, and for them to have to be met with unsavory looks and as if they're not wanted there because they may not, smell the way we or you feel that they should smell. So, you know what, that's one thing we want to do to help them because they're already going through a lot of stuff. I want to make sure that's one of the things they don't have to go to because even though they're in a situation, they still have to go to these establishments. They have to go into these other agencies to seek services and to sit down and share and fill out paperwork. And so we don't want that to be one additional thing that they have to deal with of their hygiene, whether they smell right or feel right or whatever. They don't feel good about themselves. So we're asking you to participate in this. It is July the 24th. Again, it is on a Saturday. And if you can go to our website, jadasa.org, and you can see the flyer out there, please donate. If you can't donate items and you want to donate money, we will go and purchase the items on behalf of you so they can get the necessary items that they need. And it ain't going to be necessary, the needful items that they need. And our thing is this. You are going through a traumatic experience. You may have lost your car. You may have lost your house. You may have lost your relationship with your spouse. You may have lost your money or whatever. But we don't want you to lose your dignity. And so that is why it is called the Dignity Drive. Again, we're asking you to come out, be a part of this community-wide effort. This is once a year that we do this in the summer. And shower shoes, because we want them to have shower shoes when they're taking those showers in those general showers. Nobody want to put their feet on the floor. So we got towels. So we're just looking out for them, and we want you to look out for them as well because this is a community-wide effort. Today is them. Tomorrow it could be one of us. With things that's happening in the world today, we don't know what could happen or what can befall a person. So, again, I just wanted to put that plug out there, community-wide effort where we are not raising money, we're giving back. We're giving back into the community to help those in need. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now I want to switch and pivot a little bit and talk about laws. Just happen to be reading of some things. I'm always about Jadasa. I'm always thinking about what can we do to make situations better? What can we do to help someone? What can we do? What's out there that can benefit a person to become better and to feel better and to move into a non-violent environment? I'm always looking for those avenues out there. And so I ran across some articles and I kind of read up on it, and I knew some of the stuff, but it was really eye-opening to hear and also disheartening. But I have faith. I'm still going to keep pushing on just as well as I'm sure as other advocates across the United States. And so, we're talking about these law changes that's in place that's creating a challenge. They're creating a challenge. And again, if you know anybody, go out here and listen. I'm out on the web page. I'm out on social media. I'm on Blog Talk. I'm on iTunes. I'm on TuneIn. I'm on iHeartRadio. Go out there and share this, because this is information, that's free. Information is free. Just send it out there to people. Invite them to come in and listen in on this, because it may help you and it may help somebody else. So we just need to know about that. And the laws that we're talking about, there was changes made to this law that's called the Victims of Crime Act. And this law, this was under the Trump administration, and it have spurred some closure of some domestic violence intervention outreach programs offices that have these different programs dealing with intervention and prevention, intervening for somebody that's going through a situation and trying to prevent that to happen again, or other people that haven't gone through it. This change prohibits, and it causes an issue. And it's some additional cuts that's going across in the funding across the nation. So it's just not the program in Missouri, St. Louis, or in Missouri. It is something that's affecting all of the domestic violence agencies across the country. And so what we want is to know that even though it's affecting it, it says, advocates right now, they travel now to meet survivors of domestic violence. And, because of this, they have become well-versed in working remotely over the past year due to COVID-19, because, we had to do some things because of COVID-19. Even though we was in shelter in place and we couldn't be in offices and all that stuff, that don't mean that the abuse wasn't still happening, because now we have survivors who was actually sheltered in place with their abusers. And we know that was a whole nother level that we had to deal with. But we are creative people, and we are problem solvers, and we are always trying to solve problems. And so that was something that came about. And so the services has been in place and all along, but it will continue. But the decisions, what they're doing, doesn't matter as far as the brick and mortar, because it's offsetting the decrease in funding that's currently happening right now. So even though they're cutting out some of these offices, people are already working, online or remote now. So over the last 15 to 18 months of the pandemic, we as advocates, we had to adapt. And we really excelled, and I must say that we have really excelled in mobile advocacy. And I know that's a term we just started to talk about since this pandemic. But this is something we were doing all along, because by meeting with the victims where they are, we were ensuring that they felt safe wherever they were, that they felt safe, and we serviced them during their needs. So we found that this pandemic, we could still be effective with our advocacy efforts, because we were able to still meet them where they are or where they feel safe and, safe and secure. But I want to, make a note here. We must always make sure that we be safe and secure as well when we meet our clients, and that we should meet them in a mutual and a secure location. So you're saying, okay, what does that mean? What's a mutual in a secure location? It's a place that is open enough for both parties to arrive and to thrive and to share in safely and with safety, but secure enough where you could possibly go undetected. And so that could be something like a meeting room or a space at the local library. The local library, everybody goes in there, it's open, but then you can have a secluded space where you all can talk. Also, that was not only keep that person in safety, but your safety as well, because you don't want to go going up in somebody's house that you know nothing about, walking in something that you don't know what's on the other side. So we have to make sure that the safety and the security is met with a mutual and secure location for both. So I want to share that piece. So some are concerned. Some of the domestic violence advocates across the nation, some are concerned that the office closures during the pandemic would create a barrier for people needing help. And it did to an extent, because right now walk-ins are no longer, possible where you just walk in off the street. Now, some organizations probably open up soft openings like that, but as a whole, it's not good right now because with the pandemic, even though we know a lot of people are being vaccinated, but then now here's this variant, this Delta variant is out and about, and so people are still kind of leery about the walk-ins, which rightfully so. So how can we continue to meet clients? We can meet them on Zoom. I know everybody is Zoomed out because we Zoom everything. I know, I understand, but we still need to find creative ways to service the community, to meet the people, to meet them where they are. And so we had to, create Zoom rooms. You can talk on telephones, if you can. If they're alone, then you can text. Everybody text. That's one thing I can tell. I tell people all the time now, I can call my kids on the phone. For some reason, I don't know why they don't answer the phone, but they won't answer the phone. But if I text them, they'll answer that text. And then go figure, I don't know. So people like to talk on telephone, and everybody likes to text. We meet people, you meet people where they feel most safe. So if they're not safe, they don't feel safe talking to you, but they are okay texting you, then text. Okay, if you don't know how to text, learn how to text. We have to be creative. If they are okay with talking with you, DMing you on social media, everybody on social media. If they're not on social media, they watching or they lurking on social media. They may not answer you or they may not put stuff out there, but they watching and they're looking at everything. So guess what? Create a Facebook page, invite people over there, and they can email you or whatever. We have to be creative. We have to find ways where we still are servicing our clients and make sure your numbers are posted. You can put your numbers on your Facebook group page. It could be a private group page, and you invite them to that. It's still private. It's still a safe area, but it's a secure, mutual area for you and your client. So with these laws that they're doing, I'm going to get into a little bit more. The cut in the Federal Crime Victims Fund, which is the CVF, the Federal Crime Victims Fund money is just the beginning for the service organizations in these programs. So what is it? The Victims of the Crime Act was created by Congress in 1984. And this was to provide support to state and local programs to help victims of crime, included domestic violence and abuse. So, and I think I mentioned briefly this a couple of weeks ago before on a platform with our viewers. The CVF, or the Crime Victims Fund, uses fines and penalties that are paid by people who have been convicted of crimes, or either they forfeited bail bonds, they got their bail bonds, they forfeited the bail bonds, or there was some kind of special assessment that was collected by, attorney office or whatever, or the courts, or the Bureau of Prisons. So if somebody collected some kind of money from whatever they collected for, whatever fine, bail bonds have been forfeited, or you were convicted of a crime, and you had to pay some kind of fee or some kind of fine, that money goes into the Victims of a Crime Act or the Crime Victims Fund. That money goes into this big pot in this fund. And that money is what gets doled out to help victims of abuse. So we all understand the Crime Victims Fund, where that money comes from, how it's generated across the United States. It's a federal money. So every federal organization, that means police stations, jails, prisons, whatever, that money goes into this fund. However, in 2017, the Trump administration diverted money that used to feed the Crime Victims Fund and they moved it to this other fund called General Fund of the Treasury. Now, I don't know exactly what that is or what it entails. I didn't get a chance to read up and look into that today, but I may come back and revisit this again and go into that aspect of it, because this is money that affects the organizations, which means this money affects programs, which means this money affects helping people. And so we are about educating, edifying, and encouraging the people in eradicating abuse in the community. And this is part of the eradication, understanding and educating. So we may go back to that some other time. And so, again, this money was diverted. So according to data that I looked up provided by the U.S. Department of Justice, deposits, which mean money that goes into the CVF. Listen to this, people. This just blew my mind. The money that goes into the CVF went from, listen to this, $6.58 billion. $6.58 billion in 2017 to $495 million in 2019. In 2 years, this money dwindled down from $6.58 billion to $495 million. So what they're saying, 6.58, that's $580 million, right? Okay, so that means $6 billion went out this fund. So this data was cited just last June of 2020 to a letter to the Department of Justice by some senators, U.S. senators. This is on record. I can't get over this. $6.58 billion from 2017 to 2019, $495 million. Now, $495 million is a lot of money, but it is nothing compared to $6.58 billion. So if we don't deposit money, or if that money is not put back in, or they change some kind of law or procedures or whatever it is they're doing to put money back into the CVF or the Crime Victims Fund, eventually there will be $0. And if there are $0, how can you award grants? And if there is no grants to award to organizations, there are no monies for programs and services, which means if there is no money for programs or services, how can we help the people like me and you who need these services, that's trying to get by day, who's trying to move into non-abusive relationships, who's trying to move on with their lives, who's trying to get resources to help them get on their feet? Where is that money coming from if it's not being replenished? So if anybody know about this, please hit me up at my email, info@jadasa.org, or go to my website, jadasa.org. You can go in, type something, go on my Facebook page, Jadasa page. I want to know. That's a lot of money. I was blown away when I saw that. So if some senators came together and they was talking about the VOCA fix, which is the Victims of Crime Act. VOCA stands for Victim of Crime Act. It's to sustain the Crime Victims Fund, which is the CVF that we just talked about, Act of 2021. Now, this is 2021 right now, right? So we're talking about this now. So the VOCA fix is to sustain the Crime Victims Fund Act of 2021. This is a bipartisan bill, so it ain't all Democrats and it ain't all Republicans. This is a bipartisan bill. People on both sides of the aisle seeks to pump money back into the CVF, the Crime Victims Fund. And to do this, this is what the legislation would or should or need to do. They need to direct revenue that's collected from deferred prosecution and non-prosecution agreements, which I said that 2 or 3 weeks ago when a person has gone through some kind of crime, instead of them being convicted and it's being deferred or it's some kind of non-prosecutorial agreement, they do not have to pay the fees or the fine, which means if they're not paying the fees or the fines, there is no money going into this VOCA or this CVF. So now they need to direct revenues that's collected from that's going into the general treasury fund that the Trump administration diverted money to, and they need to put it back into the CVF. So right now, that money that's going from prosecutorial agreements and these deferred prosecution, whatever this stuff is they got going on, that money is going into the general fund of the Treasury. Is diverted from the crime victims fund to the general fund of the Treasury. Now, I'm going to let you know the next time we have this type of conversation, when I come around to it, I'm going to find out what does the general fund of the Treasury consist of and who's benefiting from it. Because right now I don't know. So that's one of the things they need to do. Another thing they need to do is increase the percentage of compensation payments to crime victims, of state compensation payments. They need to do that, increase it, so it can go into that so they can get this money. And then let the states waive some kind of matching requirement for when these organizations try to get these victim service grants, these victims assistance grants, for some reason they have to match. It's some kind of matching requirement. So like maybe if you give $5, we give $5, or if you give $1, we'll give $10. I don't know what it is. Get rid of that where they don't have to come into that. And so there is a senator, and I'm going to mention this particular lady's name. Her name is Senator Joni Ernst. She is one of the senators who is bipartisan for replenishing the CVF fund, putting money back in it. She is one of those who is co-sponsor of the bill. And she states, I quote, "Having volunteered at a women's shelter in college and as a survivor myself, this issue is deeply personal for me, which is why I'm working across the aisle to strengthen support for the Crime Victims Fund." She said, "I'm hopeful Congress can come together to get this important bill passed." Now, this is from a senator who not only volunteered at a women's shelter when she was in college, but she is also a survivor herself. So she knows firsthand what women go through, just like I do. She knows firsthand the psyche, all the stuff we had to deal with. That's why I said people don't understand. They don't know your story. They don't know the road you travel. Now, even though I like the fact that she shared that, because now you can tell, or you can look back, well, you know what, but she's a senator today. Yes. So what I'm saying is, because you went through that, because you had a bump in the road, because something happened to you, you were either abused or neglected or whatever the issue is, that was a traumatic experience, does not stop there. You can pick up the pieces and move forward, because guess what? I'm pretty sure she wasn't where she is today when she was a survivor. But she picked up the pieces and she kept going. And we know God is not a respecter of person. And if he did it for her, he can do it for you. If he did it for me, he can do it for you. So I just want to put that plug in somebody's ear who is listening, because you are going through, this is a hiccup. That's all I want you to look at it there. This is a hiccup. Everybody have hiccups. This is just a hiccup. But once you finish the hiccups and you get past it, move forward, because you do not have to stay wherever the hiccup is. That's just a stop in time, a moment. Everybody have a moment. So I don't want you to feel like it's over, I'm just done, my life is over. No, you can move forward. So I just wanted to put that in there. But you know what? We need to do something. Something needs to be done. I'm not sure we need them. We need Congress to do something. We need them to take action so organizations and programs are not moving into a worse position than they are today with less money for their programs. Because less money means you can't service the people with the things they need. We're not even talking about wants. We're talking about needs. Why? People need a place to stay. People need to be safe. So, and if this continue the way it's going and they stalling and, of course, they got to go through all these voting things and whatever else procedures they're going through. But I fear more shelters and programs will continue to close if the VOCA fix is not implemented. because the need is greater now than it has ever been. Because it was fueled by this pandemic, right? Related stress, people dealing with pandemic-related stress, while when they was quarantined, financial circumstances because you couldn't go to work, your spouse couldn't go to work, the kids at home, everybody at home, nobody could really go to work. Even though you couldn't go to work, the bills didn't stop coming. Everything was still going on, but you still could not go to work. And so calls to the crisis hotline across the nation has increased since May of 2020. Why? Because people were stressed. People was going through. People was dealing with stuff this pandemic opened up a lot of stuff, okay? And it wasn't all good. It opened up a lot of stuff. Why? Because people need stuff. They need housing costs for victims of survivors. They increase because guess what? They need a place to stay. They need somewhere to go. At the time, a lot of shelters wasn't even letting people come in that hadn't already been in there because they was protecting themselves and those that they've already had, their clients. So new people wouldn't come in that could possibly be infected or exposed. So then you have to deal with trying to find them housing or hotels or something. That increased. Personal toiletry and food needs have increased. Guess why? Because people was not working. They was running out of stuff at the stores. Toilet paper, I don't know what the thing was, but, with toilet paper, people was buying 10, they had to ration the toilet paper. You can only buy 1 or 2 packs, limit, or whatever it is. But that increased, because with the pandemic, because those types of things increased, individuals could not stay with family members or friends like they normally would get a reprieve. Why? Because everybody was, at home. Everybody was quarantining, even your family and friends. If they, you need to go there, they wasn't really letting you in because everybody was on high alert and everybody was trying to make sure they stayed safe. And they could not afford to open their doors to let somebody into their home, and they already knew that they were safe from COVID. But then if they open the door and let you in and your kids and stuff, how do they know that they would possibly be exposed? So that it increased in every area. It also increased advocates' caseloads with services provided to those individuals on a case-by-case basis, which included increased check-ins. You had to constantly keep checking on them to make sure everything was okay and they were done. Hospital advocacy because something going wrong. People was going to the hospital because they was at home. They was quarantined with their, with the abuser. There were fights. There was things that's going on that caused increase in hospital advocacy. And then when you go to the hospital, they wasn't letting you in. You had to do stuff from the outside in the emergency parking lot. Because, again, COVID and the pandemic, they had to make sure that they wasn't compromising themselves or the patients, the people that had already taken these COVID tests and they was negative. They could not afford to let a person come in. And if they did take the test and let you in, then you couldn't come in as an advocate or a visitor because they wanted to make sure that they were not jeopardizing anybody else. Then you had to increase on one-on-one peer counseling. You had to deal with that with your kids. The kids was going through depression because they weren't social. They weren't being social. They didn't see their friends. They couldn't play outside, couldn't address whatever the emotions they was going through by being cooped up in the house and stuff like that. Housing assistance, emergency pet sheltering people. Now during the COVID, everybody was trying to buy a pet. Everybody wanted a pet because people was dealing with loneliness and depression. I'm telling you, things have increased. Safety planning and resources, trying to find just basic needs and resources where people was just trying to find stuff. And for the people that was offering resources, you had to make sure to see if they was at the job to even give the resources because they also had to be at home in quarantine. So the incidence was growing just more intense. And with the increasing number of calls during COVID, it was involving weapons and other high trauma situations. So the need is great. It's even greater now. So we need the money. We need the advocates to continue. Because in case you didn't know, the pandemic is not over. So let me say it again. In case you did not know, the pandemic is not over. We got this Delta variant out there. It is not over. It has escalated a lot of things for a lot of people. And I don't believe that these escalations is going to decrease soon. I just don't believe it. I wish it would, but I don't think it's going to decrease soon. So we know the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, the Biden administration, and a kind of the CDC have all said that domestic violence, intimate partner violence, has become the shadow pandemic. Really? You think so? Really? It has not become anything. It is. It always was, because it was always there. It has always been abuse. It has always been a pandemic. Why? Because it's been there for years. It's been there back 3,000 years. We can go back to the Bible and pick out some stories that talked about abuse, namely Tamar. We can talk about that, and that's over 3,000 years ago. So what the pandemic did not, it just wasn't what it become. It was brought to light. The pandemic just brought it to the light, to the forefront. It was always there because people was always so busy doing their own thing, running their own lives. They didn't want to be involved because it didn't bother them. It didn't, it didn't affect them until it got to their front door, or until it came close to their family or their friends and their loved ones. Other than that, it was like out of sight, out of mind. But right now, everybody, the world was on pause. You go stop. And the only person that can put the world on pause like that was Jesus Christ, was God himself. He said he put the pause button on the world. And so now there are some things that we, not just abuse, but since we're talking about eradicating abuse, there are some things that we as a society always neglected and looked away, and like as if, if I don't act like I don't see it, it's not there, but it's still there. Now we got to deal with it. Look at the education system. It's always been like it was. But now everybody getting affected. Same thing with this abuse. Always been there. The pandemic just brought it to the light. So by funding victim services, we can be present and give people space to heal through their trauma. Funding for the services literally comes down to people's lives. That's what it comes down to, people's lives. And if we do not have the funding to support victim services, there is no way for people to get the safety, to get the healing, or the survival they need. It's just no way. So we need your support. We need you to reach out to your Congress, to your congressman, to reach out. We need your help. We need your support. We need your resources. We need your money. We need your networking. We need you. You can go to Jadasa.org, because when you are donating money, you are helping a woman and a child make some changes in their lives. Sometimes people, they know they want to get out, but they don't necessarily know how. I had a conversation with somebody. People know that they need to do this, but the fact is they know it, but if they don't know how, that's a different story. So we need you all to help us teach our clients how to get out, how to survive, how to move forward. We need you, and by that we need your support. We need your resources. We need you to come volunteer. Help us. We got these organizations, we got these events that's coming up. We need volunteers. You don't have the money, can you please donate your time? Can you donate your time? Can you donate your talent, stuff that you know how to do? We need that. We need your support. We need your resources. We need your money. We need your networking. We need you. You can contact us at Jadasa.org. We're here on blogtalk.com radio. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on TuneIn and Spotify. Find the links on my social media page under Cynthia R. Bennett, as well as the website to go through any of these segments that we've talked about, because this is about eradicating abuse in the community. And we're going to talk about everything financial, social, political, everything spiritual, but it's going to always surround the same message: eradicating abuse. The method may be different, but the message is always going to stay the same. So with that being said, remember, it is Jadasa 24/7, 365, all day, every day. I want you to be safe. I want you to be well. And I want you to be whole. With that being said, good night.